Hello, welcome to the weekly iTNet Tech Update. This month is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, so in honor of the season, I'm giving you some tips and tricks on how to avoid those spooky hackers. Recently, someone asked us what monitoring the dark web is, and so I thought we would dive into that one today. So stay tuned for more information on that. Hello, I'm Michael Kanet, CEO and founder of iTernal Networks, and every Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. Pacific time on our Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and my personal LinkedIn, we go live to discuss the latest tech and cyberspace news that may affect you and your business. At the end of the live session, I'll be answering questions from the audience, so if you have any tech or cybersecurity questions, get them ready so that I can answer them for you. I'll be covering those at the end. To start things off, I wanted to talk a little bit about some things that I've seen in the news and or aware of. There has been news that there's an unofficial WhatsApp app on Android that was caught stealing users' accounts and credentials. So if you use the app WhatsApp for communicating, those of you who may not know what it is, it's a great app to use for communicating in groups, similar to a text messaging app, but you're allowed to add or remove users from those chat threads and stuff, and they can have access to the old history of that chat without having to start a new group text. So it works really well for communicating with larger groups of people. But there was an app that was added that looked like WhatsApp. People were installing it. They put in their WhatsApp credentials, which then provided those criminals that created that fake app access to their WhatsApp account. So if you use it, just make sure if you're adding it, installing it, that you're looking for the one that's made by the developer WhatsApp. You can look at the owner, the developer that submits to the App Store and see who that is. Just make sure you recognize the account. Also in the news, Microsoft is reminding customers that Windows 10 21H1 will no longer receive support after December 13th of 2022. So coming up here in just a couple months. So it's important to make sure that you're on the latest version of Windows 10 or upgrade to Windows 11 after that date in order to keep getting updated security patches and new updates from Microsoft. If you're not sure what version you're on, you can go ahead and check in the Microsoft settings and go to the OS version information, and you can see that. All right, on to dark web monitoring. So a lot of people may not understand when we say what we're going to monitor the dark web. What does that entail, right? What is the dark web? Well, I don't have enough time to go into what is the dark web today, but I did a video on the dark web. Oh man, it might have been last year. It's a while ago. I'll see if I can find that YouTube video and post it in the comments so you can access that if you want to know a little bit more about what the dark web is. But dark web monitoring is the process of searching for and tracking an organization's information on the dark web. There's dark web monitoring tools that are similar to search engines like Google and allow us to find leaked or stolen information, such as compromised passwords, breached credentials, intellectual property, other sensitive information, etc. Credit card numbers, social security numbers, phone numbers, all that information that is being shared and sold among malicious actors and criminals operating on the dark web. So you may wonder, well, how does it work? There's a variety of different tools that we use for that. Basically, it uses some algorithms and some AI to go hunting the dark web to look for this information. Through using it allows us to respond, by knowing about it, right? It allows us to respond and be more proactive in protecting your information and your accounts, right? If you know that there's a password that's leaked on the dark web, then you can be proactive and go change that password and any other accounts that are using that same password to protect yourself. So you may wonder, well, how does my information get on the dark web? There's a lot of different ways, and you're going to hear some of the same terms that we've been talking about for months here, right? Phishing is a big one. So you get a phishing email that you fall for and you type in your information. Guess what? They now have that information. They may use it, right, to breach your account, or they may post it on the dark web to sell that information, or they may breach your account and also post it on the dark web in order to do that. So phishing is a big way that criminals get information for people that fall for it. Another way is malware, right? So your computer gets infected with malware, botnets, or different types of malicious software that collect information on your computer. And I will point out, just because you think your passwords are safe doesn't mean that they are, right? So malware on your computer doesn't have to see you type in a password. If you've saved your password to your browser, guess what? That malicious software can scan and find that information through your browser, through your history, and then now they've got your credentials. So that's another big way, right? Is malicious software that gets loaded on your computer to find not only what you're typing, but what you've typed in the past and saved. Another way is insecure networks, right? So if hackers gain access to your network or to a third-party vendor, then they might be able to gain access to that through that breach. Me personally, I was involved in the I'm trying to remember which department, the personnel department for the United States government. At one point, I was a subcontractor for the Department of the Interior doing some work, and had to get a background check and submit everything. And that background check included my fingerprints, my information, my wife's information, my kids' information. Very lengthy, process. Well, lo and behold, later that year, they were breached, and all of my information was part of that, right? So I have quite a bit of information on the dark web from a breach that, no fault of my own, right? My information was not protected from that vendor that was managing it for the government or the department. And so that information is out there. That's another big way of doing it. Another way it can get out there, right, is if you're connecting to insecure networks and Wi-Fi or other, insecure networks to other places, and you don't have proper firewalls and things, or you're not using VPNs and encrypted traffic, and a criminal is using that wireless network to collect information on those in the area, they could be sniffing out and grabbing credentials and information from you that way. Another vulnerabilities, exploits, all the different ways that hackers can breach. These are all ways that they can gain access to information, right? So they sniff out through bots and through automations vulnerabilities that are known, and then they go in and breach systems and collect all that information. Key logging is another one. It's usually associated with some sort of malware. As I mentioned just a moment ago, right? It allows you to record what you're typing, right? So if the malware has a keylogger, it's going to collect the passwords as you type them and get that information. Not only passwords, but if you're typing, your social security number on a site, or credit card information, or banking information, anything you type, they're going to be able to collect and grab. Some malware also includes screen scraping software that allows them to actually scrape information that's shown on your screen. So without you even typing it, it's going to OCR, optical character recognize the information on your screen and grab that in there. So this all may seem kind of crazy and stuff. I'm going to pull up here and show you real quick just an example of what we can pull up on the dark web. Let me share my screen here and get this loaded up. Of course, it's not loading as quickly as I would like. Let me see if there's any questions while I'm waiting for this to open. I should have had it open in the background and then just bam, here we go. So some of the information I mentioned this, right? The biggest thing we monitor for on the dark web is for your organization, right? So we monitor your domain. So for my company, we have multiple domains. We have our primary one used to be iTernalNetworks.com, and we switched it to iTNet.works. So we monitor both of those, which means if anything on the dark web is found that has iTernalNetworks.com or iTNet.works, then we get it, right? So that's any email accounts, any third-party accounts that have an email address associated with that, that's all part of that. We also monitor for the IP address of our office, because sometimes the hackers don't know which organization it goes to, but they may have a firewall login that's associated with the IP address on the internet. And so what they can do then is they post it with that IP saying, hey, here's a firewall password. If anybody wants to go in and wreak havoc, here you go. Or maybe they post it for sale. So there's lots of information out there associated with the IP addresses. We can also monitor personal email addresses, right? So I monitor mine and my wife's personal email addresses just in case any of our personal accounts ever get breached or have information posted on the dark web related to them. All right, I think I've got this here. Oh, come on. I apologize for this, those of you that are watching live. Normally I try to be way more prepared, and just having some issues today of getting this loaded. Here we go. Let me share my screen. All right. Should be there. There we go. All right. So what we can see here, this is a sample report that I ran for my organization. I did not feel that it was appropriate to post for anybody else. We do this for our clients. We do this for those that we're trying to educate around their cybersecurity and their risk. So this report, you can see here, there's 53 exposed credentials for my company. My company's been in business for a little over 13 years. So you can imagine if you've been in business longer, you may have that many, you may have more. If you're a bigger organization, you're probably going to have more. If you're a small organization or a new organization, you may not have very many, but over time, that's gonna grow. So this kind of just a little bit of information, right? Employee credentials are a bestseller, right, on the dark web, because that's an excellent way for them to get in and deploy malware, breach emails, and spread all the stuff that they do. All right, and this is a sample of the most recent 53 compromises for this report that I ran. And so you can see here, there's lots of information, right? There's the date that it was found. And what this is the date that it was found on the dark web, not necessarily the date that it was breached, right? Because if a criminal breached a system in October and tried doing stuff on their own before they said, you know what, I'm not really getting anywhere, I'm just going to post this to the dark web, it might be months later after the breach before that information is shared on the dark web or sold on the dark web. So I grayed out the email addresses because I didn't want to disclose that information on here. But this is an email address for any employee that has an iTernalNetworks.com. So whatever's found, right? So it could be my email address, it could be one of my employees, it could be a business partner, any of those, and it'll show that information in here. Now you'll see on the password hit, I selected the option to not display the entire password for purposes of this, but we do have an option of running this report and showing the entire password that's found, right? So some of these you'll see, XXX, $2A. Some of these may be actual passwords. Some of them may not be, right? They might just be jumbled up data is what it looks like. And what that is it's an encrypted password, right? It's encrypted with a hash. And so what it indicates is that there's credentials out there, but they're probably for sale, right? They're probably not just readily available for us to scan, but they're available on a dark web marketplace. And so if you pay for it, you get that unencryption key and you've got that password. And so what we can do is we can see, well, what type, where did it come from? Where did it originate at? Quite frequently, right? They say not disclosed because we don't know where it came from. Some of these, this Apollo.io, there was a known breach of Apollo.io, July of 2018, and the credentials there are associated with that breach, right? It's a database of known credentials from that breach. Sometimes we don't know, unfortunately, but we do have the type, right? Where it came from, and then this PII hit, this indicates what type of information is there, right? So this one has one piece of PII. It could be a full name, it could be a phone number, it could be an address, it could be a credit card, social security number, right? It's any personally identifiable information. That's what PII stands for. And so this is just a sampling of some of the information that we can get by scanning the dark web. And we can run reports like this to see what's there for past data, but more importantly, we can create monitoring alerts that look for anything new. So as soon as something's posted on there, we get a notification where we can say, hey, there's a new credential, there's a new, new PI, new whatever, and we can take a look at that, see what it is, and then if necessary, take action on it by changing passwords and other things. So if this is of interest to you, reach out to me. We would love to perform a dark web report for you and your organization at no charge, right? So you're aware of that, aware of the risks that are associated with some of those things that are on the dark web for you. Webinar reminder, right? Yesterday, we had a wonderful webinar. We discussed some of the top cybersecurity breaches of the year and shared some tips and tricks on how to avoid them in your business. So if you're interested in watching the replay of that, you can go to the webinar section of our website and select that. You can receive a link where you can go on and watch the replay of that. It's about a half an hour long, and we covered some great content. Next month, we are going to be talking about how to prepare your business for 2023 with a little bit of a technical focus, but in general about budgeting and forecasting and kind of how to prepare yourself, set yourself up for success. So more information to come for that. If you have any questions, you can always reach me. Let's see if there's any questions from our live viewers. Not seeing any questions on here so far, but more than happy to answer any questions that you have that come up. You can direct message me on here, any of our social media platforms, or you can check us out on our website at iTNet.works. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll talk to you more next week. Thank you.